And this next fight here, we got a short notice matchup between Nursulton Ruziboev and Eric McConico here. And I'm not exactly sure how this fight got set up because, to my knowledge, I don't think Nursulton Ruziboev even had a fight scheduled. But, the UFC Seattle card has kind of been falling apart recently. So maybe when Ruziboev's brother got that call to fight Jared Gordon, they also asked if McConico and him would fight because McConico was fighting on Tough Enough that same, I believe, Friday before the fights this past Saturday. And he's one of Jared Cannonier's main training partners. He actually cornered Jared Cannonier in that fight that he just won on Saturday. So I'm assuming that maybe they set that fight up like that. Like, this card was a little low on fights, and they were able to get it done in that way. Yeah, so it's, I think, favors McConico unless Nursulton has been training, because McConico is getting ready to fight in a Tough Enough 5-round main event against Buddy Wallace, who's actually a really hard guy to fight on the regional scene. So he's going to be in shape and probably really ready to go, because that was also his opportunity to win and get a Contender Series shot or UFC shot. But now, hey man, he bypassed all that. He got right in the UFC, and 34 years old already. So even though he hasn't had a ton of mileage as far as MMA career goes, he has to get going quick, and it's going to have to be through Ruziboev, who came into the UFC, got 2 quick knockouts, looked really good, and then we saw his last fight with Joaquin Buckley, stepped up, took that tough fight early on in your career against a guy that's ranked in the top 10 now, and it was a competitive fight actually, but Ruziboev just got outpositioned and controlled for enough of the fight that it was a clear win for Buckley. But it's been a while since we've seen Ruziboev fight. He was booked to fight Hinat Fakhretdinov in October, but he had to pull out of that fight. So it's been 9 months since we've seen him. And he's one of these guys that I could see, making big improvements now that he's training in Philadelphia. And I feel like with this size, he's difficult for anybody. But I'm a fan of what Eric McConico brings. So I think it's going to be a good matchup here. And style-wise, Eric McConico, he's tested himself against good competition. He trains with the MMA lab. So I think he's going to be ready for this moment. He hasn't lost a fight in over 5 years. Hasn't been the most active, but he's on a 5-fight winning streak. And one thing, though, that he's never seen is someone nearly as tall as Ruziboev across from him, so that's going to be a little bit unique. But McConico, his last loss, he did fight someone with an 81.5-inch reach, so that makes me a little worried, but he's a pressure fighter, and I think he's going to be able to get on the inside. He'll throw really nasty kicks on the feet, really big, powerful legs, but this fight, I feel like he needs to throw more punches in this one, get in the pocket. It's going to be hard to throw kicks against such a tall guy. And you could tell he's a really sturdy, durable fighter. So I think he can eat some shots to get on the inside and make it more of a rough and tumble fight where I think he's going to have the advantage. We did see Maki Pitolo put McConico in some bad spots. He hurt him a couple times on the feet, but McConico's never been stopped, and he has a good poker face. When he gets hurt, he is dangerous. So when he's on the front foot, he has power. He is good in the pocket with his boxing, and on the outside, he'll mix the kicks in. So he's a decent striker. It's just if you can get him on his heels where he can't kick as easily and kind of maintain distance with feints and get him kind of hesitant, you can beat him up on the feet. But I feel like Ruziboev is going to be looking to use more of that low-volume counter game like he always does. But McConico, he does have a wrestling background, and he's grappled several times for Submission Underground and other grappling shows, so he's actually familiar with performing out here in Oregon. But he hasn't really implemented his wrestling in the cage. He will sometimes cross the distance and push guys against the fence, but you don't usually see him take guys down and submit them as his first option. In this fight, though, I wouldn't be surprised if his game plan is to look for takedowns or at least a lot of clinch control time because Ruziboev, he's just a really tall, awkward guy to deal with. But McConico, I have seen him taken down, but he's good at exploding and not letting guys control him. And he does a good job fighting in bursts. He tends to explode and then relax and explode and relax, and it makes him fight at a weird rhythm. His conditioning is good. I like him. He kind of reminds me of like a more refined version of Cody Steele. And for Nursulton Ruziboev, kind of intimidating presence in the octagon. He's a powerful knockout puncher. On the feet, he likes to stay planted, ready to counter. Big power in his right hand. He'll throw nice straights, overhand rights. He has nice uppercuts as well. And he's good at staying right at the edge of range, forcing fighters to come to him and then landing with those intercepting counter punches. Flying knees are good. He will mix in some kicks, but I wouldn't say he's the biggest heavy kicker. I do think countering kicks, if McConico does come in with a big heavy kick game plan, is going to be scary for him because Ruziboev is good at countering those kicks, and that could be a path to victory for him. But Ruziboev, he tends to just be a low-volume guy. If he gets wild and starts blitzing, that's where McConico can land counter hooks. So he just has to be smart. He did get dropped in round 3 versus Buckley. It seems like as he gets more tired, he makes more mistakes and opens up and gets wild. And I think McConico has a chance to take over as the fight goes on. But early on, when Ruziboev's fresh and he's sniping and being sharp and smart and patient, he's going to be dangerous and could get that finish. And the way to beat Nursulton recently, or at least thus far in his career, has been to take him down. But he's improved his takedown defense, and he's always had a good submission game off his back. We've seen him, even versus Buckley, throwing up arm bars and things like that. And Buckley stood up from top position a couple times. So Ruziboev definitely was posing some issues. And early on, like I said, I think he's going to be the faster and sharper striker. I think the front kicks to the body, the counter uppercuts, countering the kicks are going to be what he's going to try to do. And for McConico, I think it's just about smart pressure, forcing Ruziboev to defend clinch attacks, takedown attempts against the fence, looking to land counter hooks, looking to land shots off the break, dirty box. And I think he could take over McConico if he could really push the pace here. Ruziboev slows down, and I think that last fight is a great learning lesson for Ruziboev just because he went the full 15 minutes against a fighter who's top 10 in the world. But 2-7 in decisions, and I find it unlikely he's going to be able to finish a fighter like Eric McConico in round 1. So if you're telling me that, I think McConico is a live underdog because just his record after the first round is not the best. And McConico has been stopped with strikes in both of his losses, so he's not infallible. But I think this fight's going to be like a fight where it has big moments but a lot of lulls. I see a lot of staring in the mirror on the feet with kind of one person waiting for the other to make a mistake. And I feel like McConico is going to be the guy going forward. And if he actually can get on top and implement some of that grappling, I think he could really take over the fight. He just has to not fall asleep on top of Ruziboev in his guard. But I just think McConico's smart and durable enough to get out of round 1 and just get the bigger moments and more control in the fight. Both these guys are super hard to finish, so unless Ruziboev just dies out and gets stopped late, probably going to go to decision. So, yeah, I think Ruziboev in round 1 has a great chance to win, but after it gets out of the first, McConico has all the value, and I'm going to predict Eric McConico comes in here and wins a decision in his debut as the underdog.